Imagine you wake up tomorrow, check your bank account, and there it is. An extra $5,000 just sitting there. No explanation, no taxes, free money. You'd be thrilled, right? You'd probably order that thing you've been eyeing, book that trip, maybe splurge on the fancy ramen instead of the 50-cent instant kind. Living the dream. Now imagine every single person in the country woke up to the same surprise. Every neighbor, every coworker, the guy who's always blasting music at 3 a.m., him too. Suddenly, that life-changing $5,000 doesn't feel so life-changing anymore. And that, in a ridiculously simplified nutshell, is the problem with printing money. Every few years, especially during a crisis, the same question bubbles up. Why don't governments just print more money and hand it out? Problem solved, economy saved, everyone's rich. Roll credits. It's such a tempting idea. It feels like it should work. And yet, every economist on the planet will look at you like you just suggested feeding a houseplant Red Bull.
So today, let's actually walk through this. Why can't we just hit Control P on the economy? What actually happens when a country tries? And plot twist, how did governments pull off those massive COVID relief packages without literally printing cash? Spoiler, the answer is weirder than you think.
Let me introduce you to 5 very hungry people. Bob, Jane, Marcus, Priya, and Dave. Creative names, I know. I spent seconds on them. There are exactly 5 loaves of bread in this tiny imaginary town, each costing $5. Everyone has exactly $5. Beautiful. Perfect. The economy is balanced. Everyone gets bread, nobody riots, the baker goes home satisfied. Now let's ruin everything. By which I mean, let's print money. The government fires up the metaphorical money printer and slides an extra $5 into everyone's wallet. Bob, Jane, Marcus, Priya, and Dave now each have $10. They're feeling rich. They walk to the bakery thinking, you know what? Today, I'm getting 2 loaves. But here's the thing. There are still only 5 loaves. The baker can't magically conjure 5 more. Wheat doesn't grow in 30 seconds. Ovens don't double in size because you ask nicely. And the baker's already working a double shift as it is. So what does the baker do? She notices 10 people's worth of demand crashing against 5 loaves of supply. She's not stupid. She thinks, these people are practically throwing money at me. Let's see how much they're willing to throw. Boom. Bread is now $10 a loaf. Our 5 friends end up in exactly the same place they started. 1 loaf each, except now the number on the price tag doubled. Everyone has more money, but nobody's life actually improved. The only thing that changed is that the dollar in your pocket buys half as much as it did yesterday. That, my friend, is inflation. And when inflation goes absolutely off the rails, that's hyperinflation. Strap in because we're going on a world tour of economic disaster. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, obviously nobody would be dumb enough to actually do this. Oh, sweet summer child. Multiple countries have done exactly this, and the results were, let's say, educational. After losing World War I, Germany, then called the Weimar Republic, was in rough shape. The economy was wrecked, infrastructure was rubble, and the victorious Allied powers slapped Germany with massive war reparations. The government was broke, humiliated, and desperate. Their genius solution? Let's just print our way out of it. In January 1923, a loaf of bread cost about 250 German marks. By November of that same year, 11 months later, that same loaf cost 200 billion marks. Prices were doubling every few hours. Workers got paid twice a day and would sprint to the store at lunch because if they waited until evening, their entire salary wouldn't buy a sandwich. People literally burned cash for heat because it was cheaper than buying firewood.
kids played with stacks of banknotes like building blocks. The entire middle class watched their life savings evaporate into nothing. The economic chaos, humiliation, and social collapse this caused,
It didn't exactly set Germany up for a peaceful, stable few decades. A certain mustachioed Austrian painter rode that wave of anger right into power. So yeah, inflation doesn't just destroy wallets, it can destroy entire societies. Fast forward to the 2000s. Zimbabwe, under Robert Mugabe, embarked on a land reform program that involved kicking experienced white farmers off their land and giving it to people with no farming experience. Agricultural output, shockingly, collapsed. The economy tanked, international sanctions kicked in. The government's fix? You already know where this is going. Print more money. By 2008, Zimbabwe's annual inflation rate hit 89.7 sextillion percent. That's 897 followed by 20 zeros. I can't even pronounce that number without my tongue cramping. A single egg cost billions of Zimbabwean dollars. A loaf of bread required a backpack full of cash. Prices doubled within a single day. The currency became so worthless that Zimbabwe eventually just gave up. They abandoned their own dollar and started using foreign currencies like the US dollar and South African rand. When your country's money is so bad that you have to borrow someone else's, you know you've messed up. Venezuela has more oil than Saudi Arabia, more oil than anyone. At one point, when oil prices were sky high, they were living large. Massive government subsidies, cheap gas, fixed low prices on everything. The government was enormously popular. But they spent the oil windfall on handouts instead of developing actual industries. When oil prices crashed after 2008, the party was over.
the socialist government couldn't cut subsidies without angering millions of people who depended on them. So they did the one thing they could do without asking permission. They printed money. Cue the hyperinflation spiral. By 2016, the bolivar was collapsing so fast that people were literally throwing cash in the streets. Not because they were rich, because the paper was worth less than the effort of carrying it. Venezuela is the tragic proof that even sitting on a mountain of natural resources can't save you from the consequences of printing your way out of a problem.
If you were paying attention in 2020, you saw the U.S. government pump $2.2 trillion into the economy with the CARES Act. Stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment, PPP loans. That sure looks like printing money, doesn't it? Here's where things get interesting, and where most people get confused.
Governments can't actually print money, like legally. In most modern economies, the money supply is controlled by the central bank. In the US, that's the Federal Reserve. And it's designed to be independent from the government, specifically so politicians can't just print cash whenever they want to buy votes. So where did those trillions come from? Let me introduce you to a fancy-sounding concept that's actually pretty simple. Quantitative easing, or QE, for those of us who don't want to say quantitative more than absolutely necessary.
Here's how bonds normally work. When you buy a bond, you're essentially lending money to the government or a company. They say, give me $1,000 now, and I'll pay you back $1,050 in 5 years. You made $50 for doing basically nothing. Free money. Legal this time. When a normal person buys a bond, they're using money that already exists. No new money enters the system. But when the central bank buys bonds, different story. The central bank essentially creates new money out of thin air to buy those bonds. It's not literally printing. Nobody's firing up a Xerox machine. But it is adding fresh cash to the economy that didn't exist 5 minutes ago. During COVID, the Federal Reserve pledged to buy unlimited U.S. government bonds. The government then used that money to fund stimulus checks, unemployment benefits, small business loans, all that relief that kept millions of people from falling off a financial cliff.
So, isn't that just printing money with extra steps? Yeah, kind of, but with important differences. First, bonds have to be paid back. The government owes the central bank that money, plus interest. It's a loan, not a gift. Second, and this is the clever part, when the central bank buys a ton of government bonds, it drives down the interest rate on those bonds. This makes government bonds a less attractive investment.
Other investors, like pension funds, insurance companies, your rich uncle, then go looking for better returns elsewhere, like corporate bonds from small and medium businesses. Those businesses can now borrow money more cheaply, expand, hire people, and grow the economy. In theory, at least. Third, quantitative easing is supposed to be temporary. The central bank can later sell those bonds back into the market, sucking the extra money out of circulation. It's like a controlled burn instead of setting the whole forest on fire.
Now, has this worked perfectly? Debatable. Some economists think QE saved the global economy in 2008 and 2020. Others think we've painted ourselves into a corner where governments are addicted to cheap debt and central banks can never actually unwind their balance sheets without crashing everything. Both camps have good arguments. The truth is, QE is still a pretty young experiment, and we're all living through the field test.
But wait, says the clever person in the back, what if we only use the printed money to pay off foreign debt? Keep it out of the domestic economy entirely. Out of sight, out of mind. Nice try. High marks for creativity. Here's the problem. Other countries are paying attention. They watch inflation indicators, currency markets, and economic reports. They have, economists. When you increase your money supply, even for foreign use only, it weakens your currency. A weaker currency means your debt payments are worth less in real terms. Foreign creditors see this and think, wait, you're planning to pay me back with devalued monopoly money? I don't think so. They lose confidence. They might refuse to accept your currency, demand higher interest rates on future loans, or simply stop lending to you altogether. Your country's economic reputation, which takes decades to build, can evaporate overnight. And for a country that relies on international trade and foreign investment, that's a death sentence. So no, you can't just quietly print your way out of foreign debt either. The global financial system has receipts. Literally.
If printing money is like trying to fix a leaky boat by pouring in more water, what's the actual fix? The answer is almost boring in its simplicity. Create real value. A country's wealth isn't measured by how many zeros are on its banknotes. It's measured by what those banknotes can actually buy. Food, housing, healthcare, education, gadgets, entertainment, the stuff of actual human life. So the playbook, which countries like South Korea and Japan proved works astonishingly well, looks something like this. Build stuff people want. Invest in manufacturing, technology, and infrastructure. When a country can produce goods efficiently, those goods stay affordable even as the economy grows. Invest in brains. Education isn't just a nice thing, it's literally an economic engine. Skilled workers create more value, innovate more, and earn higher wages. Make it easy to do business. When entrepreneurs can start companies without drowning in bureaucracy, they create jobs. Those jobs create income. That income creates demand. And that demand is met by, you guessed it, more supply. Because competition keeps prices in check. Manage resources wisely. Oil is great, but if you're Venezuela and you spend the oil boom on subsidies instead of diversifying your economy, you're building a house on a single pillar. When that pillar cracks, the whole thing comes down. When people earn money through productive work rather than government handouts, two things happen. First, they value that money more and spend it thoughtfully. Second, producers can't just jack up prices whenever demand rises, because if they do, their competitors will undercut them. The result? Stable prices, growing incomes, and an economy that actually works. It's not flashy, it doesn't fit in a tweet, but it's the only thing that's
ever worked long term.
Here's the thing about money that most people miss. Money isn't wealth. It's a claim on wealth. Having $1 billion in your pocket is meaningless if there's nothing to buy. Money is just a sophisticated IOU, a promise that you can exchange this piece of paper or these pixels on a screen for actual goods and services that improve your life. When a country prints more money without producing more stuff, it's not creating wealth. It's just diluting everyone's claim on the existing wealth, like cutting a pizza into 20 slices instead of 8 and pretending you've made more pizza. The countries that get rich aren't the ones with the biggest money printers. They're the ones that make things, grow things, build things, invent things, and educate their people to do all of the above.
So next time someone says, "Why don't we just print more money?" you can smile knowingly, lean back, and say, "Let me tell you a story about a loaf of bread, a wheelbarrow full of cash, and the time Zimbabwe had to abandon its own currency." Then maybe share this video with them, because let's be honest, you're not going to remember all of this. Like and subscribe if you want more videos where I explain things your economics teacher tried to teach you, but with more jokes and fewer chalkboards. Thanks for watching.